Boys, 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 have we got a stream today. Taking a look through the Shinobi class, which is a pitch from Three Crow, and he's looking to get it instantiated into Asyndasaur, ported to Asyndasaur. One thing that he wanted to make kind of clear early on was that the naming conventions for a lot of this stuff were designed to be a little bit more mind that, just be looking at my casting schedule. What's going on, Kian? Yeah, he mentioned that the man himself was here, of course, and he mentioned that the he used Eastern themes for the naming, like ninjutsu and shinobi, but that can easily be replaced as window dressing or what have you later on with other names. It's kind of interesting because I think fundamentally D&D separates certain classes into certain things, right? So they have like martial, mystic, and I guess like holy. Maybe they really only have martial and mystic, and then there's like a blend. It's like a paradigm where you fall on that spectrum. Like paladin would be more martial than mystic, and cleric would be more mystic than martial. And bard would probably be more mystic than martial, whereas monk would be more martial than mystic. And you got stuff on the extremes of those, like sorcerer, wizard. Warlock would be less so extreme on the mystic side. You got ranger, who's kind of also a weird in-between in default D&D. By the way, throwing spellcasting onto stuff feels like a big whiff for a lot of D&D classes. I think it would be much better to have more unique preternatural mechanics if you want to use that kind of thought process. It feels weird for rangers to cast spells. That's all I'm saying. And I know that like some rogue and even fighter subclasses give you spellcasting. I just feel like that's weird. I suppose it's fine as like a subclass thing for it to be kind of rare. It just feels like a missed opportunity for the classes to go much further in their own direction. Like, I was kind of thinking about the Weapon Master scaling and how my thought process is basically that they get some kind of... I was thinking they could get, like, combat tempo. I have to look up the status effect for haste real quick. Additional action on each of its turns, yeah. So, I was basically thinking that... And haste is a 3rd level spell, so you get it at what, level 5? Like, it's pretty rare. I was basically thinking that if you did certain things with your Weapon Master, based on your subclass probably, that would dictate your ability to give yourself a haste. And it wouldn't be something you could probably do every turn. Maybe with a lot of setup or a lot of skill expression you could. The right circumstances, being set up with your team. By giving yourself the haste status as a Weapon Master would be like basically part of the combat flow. And I know that like a haste is a spell, but it's not really spell casting in the same way, right? That's kind of what I'm getting at. Is it's not really the same level of it's not like I'm literally casting the spell on me, which would be an action. So it's concentration too. I probably wouldn't be a concentration thing for the Weapon Master. Anyway, that seems like a fine mechanic for giving a martial something that's supernatural or preternatural, superhuman, whatever superlative word you want to use, without it being magic. Maybe it's even magical in nature in some way, but like the Blood Knight is a martial class that clearly has some kind of magical thing going on, but that doesn't make it like casting. You know what I mean? Doesn't make it mystic as a class. No. What's up, Shambler? Yeah, I was just talking earlier about how Kian told me that the names were there for, like, he used Eastern mysticism and Eastern, like, thematics, I guess. But the names could be changed pretty easily, and the class would still be kind of the same. I think Shinobi is probably more... It's probably a better word to use than, like, ninja or something, right? And assassin is also, like, too non-specific. I have to read through the class to get a good feeling about them. Yeah, I think Shinobi probably does cut a little bit too close to like being hyper Earth centric or human centric, but I also think that's probably fine. Basically, I wouldn't be complaining too much if it was Shinobi, but I do think we could do it with a less specific term for it that still captures the essence of the class. Like, it's kind of funny because Paragon was a what would you say? Paragon was like too good of a sounding word, like too good aligned sounding of a term, and I did want something that could maybe inspire a bit more dread, be a bit more like potentially evil if you wanted to run an evil character or have an evil character in a NPC or big bad evil guy role. That is a Paragon by nature, so that's where we came up with Immortal. I think that serves the class pretty well, even though it's a word that might be a bit people might decry as generic. And of course, we're all StarCraft heads here, so we think of Immortal and we think of StarCraft 2, and we wish we didn't think of that. But I think Immortal is a fine class name. I think Paragon was also a fine class name, except for the fact that it was too good of a word. Like, by that I mean too good aligned. Shinobi feels like the reason why I would take umbrage with it, or I see other people taking umbrage with it, would be that it feels like it's hyper specifically referencing a particular kind of thing that maybe closes off the opportunity to associate it with other things. This medieval armored looking man certainly seems a bit AI generated, shall we say. This feels like whatever generated this, assuming it is AI gen, feels very similar to whatever was being used for the AI generation of some player cards in a Counter-Strike tournament I was looking at recently. I was casting the Conquest of Prague. I'll still be casting that. There's a couple more days where I'm casting that. And they had some kind of thing going where they AI generated the cards into looking like medieval like knights, basically. So the players looked like knights. This is just a PDF that Kian sent me. He's free to post it. It's his stuff, so he can post it if he wants other people to take a look at it. I can't quite link it, though, because it was just sent to me via Discord. Yeah, basically, I'm looking through it. We're gonna see what we can sort of distill down, and obviously there's stuff for planning all the way to level 10, where you're probably ending level progression around 5 or 6 in a lot of our work here. By the way, guys, I do wonder, and this is something that we can all chew on together. I've been releasing those D&D donor casts, right? The porch postings and the like. Okay, it's in the Homebrew channel for Shambler and others to take a look at. But it might be a blessing in disguise for a variety of reasons for level progression to end at 6 for a lot of people. Because in that case, you guys aren't so far away from that in both Paladin Partner and ADS, right? Ascension to Sazerain. If you guys end up getting to that point, maybe that's a natural stopping point for the campaign. And then, it would free us up room to start up a new campaign. I did have a musing recently that I was actually this morning. I was talking to my girlfriend about this. How we have been thinking, oh, what's up, Alexander? Speaking of my girlfriend, and Alexander has his girlfriend. You know how it is. Hope you're doing well, though. I was thinking that basically we're adding all of this new stuff, new classes, new races, things that you can pick from, new subclasses. And some of it is being bespokenly generated for the campaigns we're already running. Like there's going to be a subclass for Darux and ADS that I'll be working on probably mostly next week, maybe a little bit at the end of this week, depending on how good prep is for the Paladin Partner session. But we might be playing the Paladin Partner for a couple of sessions as it is anyway. We'll see. I'm fine either way. Up to you guys. But we're only starting a new arc, really, in the Paladin Partner. So it does kind of make sense for us to play this one for a while. Anyway, we're doing all of this stuff, right? And we keep stacking up all the homebrew that we never get the chance to properly play. I mean, I'm introducing like Gagrami into ADS, right? So like, still, I'm finding a way to incorporate it so the players can enjoy being on the receiving end for it, or maybe having it as a an ally. Like nobody's played an orc yet, but you got an orc sort of NPC tagging along in ADS, right? Anyway, I'm saying all of that because at some point, I'm sure you guys, as excited as you are and enjoying your existing characters as you are, some of you guys might be like getting itchy for the homebrew stuff. And so I do think it would be more responsible for us to wait until one of these campaigns closes before we open another one. But maybe that's another reason why it's good to keep the party low level. Because if it could go on forever to level 10 or level 20, then we would never finish. Go into Turbo GM. Oh, you're doing great, man. I think even if we did doubles every weekend, all I want to do is use my 6th level features. Classic. I think even if we did doubles every week, because I could somehow afford to do that, that would definitely require me to quit my job. Holy shit. That would still be pretty nuts. It would be like... I think it would still be a very long time. Alright, so let's take a look at this. We've kind of beaten around the bush enough. Shinobi are versatile warriors who blend martial prowess, cunning tactics, and mystical arts to achieve their objectives. Trained rigorously in secret arts passed down through clans, their unique techniques and supernatural abilities make them formidable operatives in combat and stealth missions alike. I do like the idea of another class that is actually pretty adequately usable in stealth sequences. I don't know that we could realistically have stealth missions with Paladin Partner or ADS. I'm sure it would be possible, but like you guys already had to do your infiltration moves, and you guys all stand out like sore thumbs for the most part. Like Silas can make his stuff happen. That's fine. In ADS, but you got Draconin and you got a fucking Knoll, to that end, you got a Warforged, like not exactly the most typical thing that you'll see. A well-placed magical item can change that. Yeah, that's true. All right, so. Yeah, it's cool to hear about stealth in the description anyway. I just like what that inspires within me. So, it's a 1d8 per Shinobi level, which isn't the worst, but also not the best. You think about 1d10 or 1d12. Dexterity, Dex and Wisdom for saving throws, for proficiencies, right? Interesting they get up to medium armor. I'm already kind of imagining... Like, the first thought that I had was, like, Knight or, Gallant or something like that for the term for this class. if we wanted to be something a little bit more Western centric, which is a little bit more familiar to D&D. I don't know. Knight almost feels like too plain, but that's kind of the vibe. And sometimes knights did wear heavy armor, but a lot of the times they wore armor that wasn't so heavy. So that's where maybe like Gallant works out. I know there's Knight Errant, stuff like that. So white male knight. What, instead of white male paladin? I don't know what Alexander's referencing. Simple weapons, short swords, long swords, longbows, thrown weapons. Okay. The longbows is definitely more of a Mongol horde kind of thing, right? I'm sure they were common in Europe as well, but I know crossbows were all the rage. Yeah, Weapon Master is I think it's a much less honor-bound, much more brawly option. Like, you could think of Knight being somewhere in between Fighter and Paladin, whereas Weapon Master is like somewhere in between Fighter and Rogue almost. I don't know how else, or maybe, yeah, I guess that's probably a fine characterization. Mongols were short bows. Fair enough, fair enough. I feel like longbows, obviously, the West has a common... the West has a long history with longbows, no pun intended, but it does make me feel more Asian for sure. Yeah, oh yeah, the Vikings used longbows all the time too, yeah. Meme about how people complain about fellas that play white male fighters in video games and tabletop and nothing else. Ah, I see, okay. Well, I think Luciferius's first character in Baldgate was like Whitey Mick Paladiners. I forget what his name was. Like Whitey Mick Whiteface. And the skills are acrobatics, athletics, deception, insight, intimidation, perception, sleight of hand, stealth, survival. Yeah, it seems pretty good. Pretty standard fair stuff. So Shinobi training is your level 1 feature, if you will. Or I guess like subset of features. You've honed your body and mind through intense training and discipline, whether guided by a master, your clan's elders, or your own prodigious talent. You gain the following abilities as a representation of the skills you've learned from your shinobi training. Martial prowess. You gain proficiency in unarmed strikes. The damage die for unarmed attacks becomes a d4. You may use your dexterity modifier when determining the attack and damage rolls of your unarmed strikes or a weapon you are proficient with as a result of your shinobi class feature. So... basically, that means that even if you're using a strength-based weapon, which I think maybe longswords are... I don't remember. I guess longbows would probably be strength-based. I don't know how D&D does it. They might do dex for longbow compared to crossbow. I think crossbow is the strength-based one. Anyway, it sounds like you can basically just use your dex mod for anything you're proficient in as an attack and damage bonus. So if your dex mod is 3, you add 3 to those. Fairly standard. I don't imagine that the unarmed strikes would be particularly... Well, hold on. There's exploit weakness, which is once per round on your turn. When you make a successful attack with an unarmed strike or a weapon you are proficient with, you may make an additional attack as a bonus action with an unarmed strike or a thrown weapon. So, I guess the reason why you get the exploit... So, your exploit weakness thing, which I'd probably tweak the name of a little bit, is basically like I strike you either with my fist or with a weapon that I'm proficient with, and I can then strike you with my fist, or I can use the thrown weapon like, shuriken, right? To make it thematic. So a combo thing, which does make it so that they're pretty dangerous if they get up close with you. The only thing I could see this being kind of weird is you're proficient with a ranged weapon, so... This sounds like it would let you do a longbow attack and then after that a thrown weapon as a double up, which while thematic and cool is also maybe a bit hard to believe given how much effort it takes for longbows, right? So that's the only thing I'm seeing about this that makes me wonder about the Not necessarily the balancing part of it, but just the flavoring part of it. Sign sword? I don't know what that means. Surface walking. You can concentrate to traverse the surface of water, vertical surfaces, and ceilings. Okay, while concentrating, you traverse these surfaces as if they were normal ground. If this effect ends while you are traversing a surface, you fall. When you make an acrobatics check or a dexterity saving throw to determine fall damage, you instead take no damage on a success and only half as much damage on a failure. Okay. Basically letting you... I don't know what the rules are for fall damage. I'd have to look those up if this class were in play. So it feels like the surface walking... That's definitely inspired by anime. I've seen enough one-shots of anime or whatever, little clips of them, just where one of the protagonists is running on water, right? So this is really the first like mystical aspect, which is kind of interesting because it's like a projection of force, because they don't have to maintain momentum. That's not the wording of the ability. The wording of the ability is you can simply, like, you could basically stand on water or stand on the wall or the ceiling. And there wouldn't be, like, it's not like you're using the momentum generated to fuel that. Obviously, if you end your turn in one of these precarious positions and then you get struck and fail your concentration save, you're going to fall. You're going to take some damage. Okay. On the one hand, I like the fact that there's a way to be very agile without, like, jumping and leaping around and being, like, instantaneous traversal, blinking, that kind of stuff. I think actually being able to move through that kind of stuff is pretty neat. It's something that we should have a little bit more of. Or, like, it would encourage me to make maps in a certain way to reward that kind of thing. I already try to in certain ways, but obviously certain classes can take advantage of that a lot better. But looking at the, I think, yeah, probably, let's see, the concentration requirement allows it to be broken by damage, being exploited by ranged attack spells if the player takes a precarious position. Okay. Yeah, it would have to be, I think, that kind of, yeah. That kind of makes me feel like, what would you say? The flavor of the ability allowing you to do more things than simply run towards the enemy or run to your new location is kind of nice, I suppose. It definitely sets the class apart, which I like. And that's why, even though it might feel like OP in some way, or, I don't think it would be OP, but even though it might feel like super powerful and like, what the fuck, that guy can do that at level 1, I think that's actually, I mean, that's not the most absurd thing somebody can do at level 1. Okay. Peerless Stamina. This is where we're probably going to have some fighting words, because dash as a bonus action is, I think, a Rogue 2 feature. But admittedly, they can also do disengage and one other thing. I can't remember. Hide or something? I forget what their other one was. So they wait till level 2, but they get more options. Also, I guess they can do that forever. And this is only proficiency bonus, right? Yeah, that's probably fine, actually. Again, also considering part of the class's damage output is built around being able to use bonus action for other things, like as a combo and weapon. One thing I do like about adding a lot of uses for bonus actions in Ascendosaur D&D compared to 5th edition is you don't have to worry about, oh, is this balanced for it to be a bonus action? Because there's a lot competing for your bonus action now. So you think about, like, one of the reasons why the Blood Knight is that Ro is a Gnoll, so he chose that Butcher's Brutality option. So a lot of his bonus action class features are in some ways overshadowed by the consistent damage of his bite. I still think he'd probably have a little bit more of a good time if he used those class features, by the way. A little bit more often than his bite. But sometimes the best defense is just biting the motherfucker. What's up, Luciferius? Yeah, I think monks definitely feel like they really could use some more stuff, don't they? Oh yeah, we have to figure out what subclass you're taking for Ashtorium. If any of them interest you, or if you want a custom one. I feel like a custom one that's like somehow doubling down on your Warforgedness would be pretty good. A Shadow? Okay, you've already made your choice. Sounds good. I'll port it to Foundry at some point. Let's see here. Leaving myself some notes. I know Darix needs bespoke. Okay. There you go. Very nice. So, yeah, we have, I don't think I would make any immediate tweaks to any of this. The only thing, again, I'm a little bit curious about the, I'm a bit curious about the bonus action with ranged weapon, because firing with a longbow and then throwing something is... It's probably fine, but it might lead to a lot of ranged DPS. So I would have to be somewhat concerned about that. But we can test it as is. I don't think that's something that we need to immediately rein in. Yeah, overall, I think all this stuff makes a lot of sense. The dash I was a little bit worried about, but it's limited by proficiency bonus. I think that's fine. I'm not really that concerned by that. You don't get a +3 until level 5 anyway, according to default D&D progression, which we will probably change. I think proficiency bonus is going to turn into something that gets like increased in some other way than leveling up. Longbow is also 1d8 plus dex, though, right? Because of your martial prowess. Because you're proficient in them. So, it's probably a little bit... Probably a little bit more. Oh, they're already dex, okay. It's kind of weird that longbow is dex. Feels like it should be strength. Not that it would matter for this class, just kind of saying out loud. So, level 2 seems to be some sort of spellcasting, but it looks like it's a bespoke spellcasting thing. Yeah, that's a bit weird, isn't it? Beginning at 2nd level, you learn to weave magical abilities unique to Shinobi through special hand gestures made in rapid succession. Each technique requires a minimum of 4 sign types: base, element, range, and duration. Now this is anime. You may use additional hand signs when executing a ninjutsu to modify its final output. However, you may not repeat the same hand sign twice, nor can the total cost of the total cost exceed the maximum cost as shown in the Shinobi class table. This is one of those things that would take a lot of learning, it looks like. Hand sign reference table below describes the common name of each hand sign, its type, affinity, output, and cost. Yeah, it's basically Naruto, I think. I don't remember much about that show, though. Shinobi, feared and respected for their tireless adaptability, combine hand signs to execute the best techniques for their given situation. While in ninjutsu may not always pack a fireball's punch, its versatility allows a shinobi to shine against many different obstacles and opponents. So you can use up to twice your proficiency bonus based on your slots. Requires 1 action. Invoker from Dota. I have not played Invoker from Dota. Now, do you know all of these from the word go? Yeah, it looks like you have access to all of them by default. Oh, I see. I see. It looks like you all know all of them, but you become proficient in a select choice of them. Like, I think it's fine to have all of these options, but I don't know about being able to remember all of them pretty much ever. Also, this is something that is so core and different that you probably do want to have some way to port this to level 1. This seems like one of the points of the class, right? Like, I would almost wonder if you could move some of the level 1 stuff to level 2, including the proficiency. The level 2 proficiency could stay, but level 1 knowing all of them would probably be... Oh, okay. The Sign Sword, yeah. I got you. Well, we have Iron Head. So we probably need something like... I was thinking like Crown Hand or something, but that's a little bit too regal. That could be like not even a subclass, I guess. I don't know. But something hand, right? Because it's a hand sign. Or, you know, hand, palm, fingers. Goldfinger class. Silly. That's right. That's where I was getting it from. Kian, what do you reckon about maybe, you know how Blood Knights are, maybe you can be a good Blood Knight, a good aligned Blood Knight, but it's definitely it lends itself towards potentially ominous terrain, ethically or what have you. What do you reckon if we were to align the theme of the class to be a little bit more, not necessarily forbidden magic or something like that, but if this is supposed to be passed through the bloodline, I wonder if we could make the class seem almost a little bit more again, not evil, not outright evil, just a more ominous class. Like, you don't immediately think Blood Knight and then think, oh yeah, that guy's a swell guy. You know, you're concerned. You're definitely concerned. And so if we had something that was kind of like that, because I was kind of thinking like Serpent Hand or, you know, Snake Hand, something like that. I know that Serpent is literally an option here, so that probably wouldn't work out too well. But these are all animals, though. Animals, insects. So you could imagine Beast Hand. Beast Hand does sound more like somebody who's like a Beast Master. I don't know about that. No, I don't think shinobi is necessarily honorable, but what I'm getting at is it doesn't immediately communicate that to a Western audience necessarily, right? So I was wondering, like, maybe we could have like feral hand. That's not good enough, but something in that vein. Why? I guess maybe a more term that isn't actually a more neutral term could be like wild hand, wild fist, something like that. It's funny because you think with shinobi you'd want something a little bit more honorable, a little bit more orderly, something that would be like lawful as opposed to that. So I am kind of thinking about thematically something that would lend itself a bit more to chaos, right? And that's where I'm thinking like where you could have something about calling it wild, you know. I do like archetypal names for classes. That's where I thought Immortal was worked out pretty well. So I'm also kind of cognizant about that. You think about like Berserker. Obviously that's too close to Barbarian, but Southpaw would be a funny name. It's a boxing style. What would we call that? Yeah, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Anyway, I'll keep thinking about it, but I think that's a good way to pivot. I do think that ninjutsu would best shine if it were at level 1. If we could put ninjutsu minus maybe a small selection of them, right? Maybe you only get to... Maybe you pick a series of ninjutsu, which we would have to change the name of as well, I think. I don't think we can do the anime part. But you'd pick some of these hand signs, right? And I think you would probably... I was thinking you could probably pick maybe more than 3 hand signs of the list to know. And then you'd get access to the full list at level 2. Plus the ones that you picked, or you could re-specialize, would be the ones that you'd get the level 2 specialization, but you'd still be selecting. I'm thinking the reason why I was thinking at... What do we get here? At level 1, you only get wolf and monkey. Monkey or frog. Avenger. Yeah. I don't know. Avenger would probably be fine, but you'd probably open yourself up to some cringe cape shit comments, right? I'm not a super fan of action verbs, as you guys all know, but... Like, we have, like, Holy Warrior and Paladin. There's, like, Druid, which isn't really a warrior, but, Guardian of Nature, right? I don't know that I would necessarily put these guys in as nature-specific. They would definitely be... I do think that, like, broadly speaking, these ones being more... Now, we gotta think archetypal, Shambler. We gotta think something that... Probably one word, not like a combo. Like, Blood Knight is a little bit different, I guess. Knight is already taken, though, so we can't really do Knight. But... honestly, if we have fist or hand in the name, it's probably fine, because it's pretty accurate to what it is. I think ninjutsu could probably be called engrams. If anybody's played Ark Survival Evolved, that's what they call their skill tree, is engrams, where you learn shit. But they're also like sigils, right? They're symbols, burned into memory, right? Stuff like that. So that would be a pretty thematic word for the casting, if you will, the mystical parts. I don't know how Skyrim casting works with their shouting. Is it just vocal, or are there somatic components as well? Because that's kind of what this would almost remind me of, except obviously they can do it silently. That's kind of interesting. Well, that was something that he said, a character concept he had was similar to Blink's. But maybe they wouldn't all be that. Only vocal component. Okay. Whereas these would be only somatic, right? See, Saberhand is almost like a generic word for a man who has a blade, right? So that's kind of funny. Blade hand, Saberhand. A little bit too generic. Hold on, let me check something real quick. Oh, I have pings. Yeah, I was thinking about Wraith as well, or something like that, because it's so quiet, right? It's or you could think of night, like the dark of night. It's so quiet, you know. No, it can't just be war. That's too generic. Yeah, an in-between class for Paladin and Cleric. Well, siding to which, right? Like, more martial than the Cleric, more mystic than the Paladin? Is that kind of what you're getting at? I think we could probably have, like, Herald or Hierophant as a class name for something like that, but I would have to think about it. Maybe by the time we finish one of our campaigns, I'll have that class done. I want to be a Panoptus. Well, Kian, I think you might be the only one doing this class, so thankfully I don't necessarily have to worry about comprehending it. I will certainly try to learn it myself. I guess I can basically see that, like, you organize these in terms of, like, this is damage, this is utility. So what do we have? We have Panther is melee spell attack. And, okay, yeah. I got you. Now that's not nearly archetypal enough. Panoptis is clearly the better class. Sometimes you can actually look at Cosmonarchy unit names and come away with something pretty epic for D&D, but not always. Sovereign. I know there's a noun version of this. Oh, okay. Not at all what I thought it was. Yeah, but it's like specifically you're thinking of, oh, I'm gonna proficiency into Phoenix, so I'll do more fire damage. But then if you go up against something that's a bit more fire resistant, you're gonna have to pivot, right? So that makes sense. Well, you know, you think that you saying blood debt made me think of actuary, which is pretty funny as a term. Not at all really archetypal, but thinking about names some more, I feel like maybe we could also think about something related to artisan. It's just, you don't want a three-syllable word with something else. You know what I mean? Like, all right, I'm gonna read through some of the subclass choice stuff. Right now we have Bloodline, Eyes of the Sun and Moon. So at 3rd level, your training awakens the legacy of your clan. You gain access to a shinobi bloodline, which reflects your unique lineage and the mystical abilities passed down through it. Your bloodline might manifest as a powerful genetic ability that only awakens following intense training, a secret style passed down only to the most elite members of your clan, an ability gifted to you by a sage, or something entirely unique to your shinobi. Your choice grants you features at 3rd, 6th, and 10th level. And for the Eyes of the Sun and Moon, your clan's legacy is one of ancient ocular power. Upon awakening your shinobi bloodline, your eyes transform into conduits of foresight and supernatural control. Your irises take on the appearance of a starlit void. Those who gaze into them experience a parallax effect, as if peering into pockets of the night sky. Interesting flavor for that one. Your eyesight awakens to the hints of possibility hidden in all things, granting you the limited foresight that heightens your perception and reflexes. For danger sense, you have advantage on dexterity saving throws made to avoid attacks, spells, traps, and obstacles that you can see. Precognition. Your AC increases by 1, and you gain +1 to hit on attack rolls against creatures that you can see. Heightened perception, you have advantage on perception. Generally, the way that I've worked this is if you already are proficient in something that you get advantage in elsewhere, you become expert at it, right? It becomes an expertise thing. I don't know if that's OP or not, but it feels appropriate for that kind of thing. I saw a house rule recently, by the way, guys, that made it so that stacking advantages is like done by adding more dice to it flatly. So if you already have advantage, that's whatever. But if you have double advantage, then you just get an automatic +2 to whatever you get. And triple advantage is +5, and quadruple advantage is +10. So that's kind of interesting. I feel like we'll probably roll with that if I remember in the moment, and somebody would actually have double advantage. That way you get kind of like, it's not quite diminishing returns, because after the increase from 3 to 4 is, or sorry, 2 to 3 and 3 to 4 is a little bit disproportionate, but it's not as good as just rolling another dice usually, but still good. So that way, if you like bless somebody or haste somebody or whatever the terms would be for whatever the spells would be to give you advantage, guidance, etc., it's not like wasted on one person if you really need to guarantee a hit. Okay, if you're blinded, blindfolded, or your vision is otherwise obscured such that you cannot see, you can't benefit from the abilities. That's useful. I wonder if maybe I'll take that and run with it for the other subclasses, Kian. Something like aspects of your sensory or aspects of your your physical form becoming a conduit of sorts that provide you with more information about what's going on. But also the idea that like if those are restrained, you lose access to it, right? That's kind of interesting. At 6th level, you reach a level of mastery that unlocks the legendary ancient power of your bloodline. Your eyes now each carry a devastating ninjutsu, each representing the boon granted to your bloodline. When you activate a technique granted to you by Eclipsing Gaze or Celestial Alignment, you can expand a ninjutsu slot to augment it with a hawk sign. What was the hawk sign again? Precision. +3 hit DC, but is that the same? It's like +2 hit. We're not proficient in it. Okay. A burning visage of the sun eclipses your right eye. As an action, designate a 15 feet cube whose origin is a space within 120 feet that you can see. That space becomes immolated with black flames until the beginning of your next turn. Each creature in the area must make a dexterity saving throw, taking 6d10 fire damage on a failed save, or half as much on a success. Is 6d10, that's like way more than, I think that's way more than Fireball, right? But this is 6th level, so. I forget when you get Fireball. Is that 3rd level? Hey, Inscription's pretty epic, so have a good time. Help her out with decisions, etc., etc. Don't look at the screen when she uses the pliers. It's uncomfortable. If she uses the blade as well, definitely don't look at the screen. The screen effects kind of hurt my eyes when that happens. No, it's fun. A nice logic puzzle. Oh, okay. That's interesting. So it looks like this could spike harder, but it could also fall flat a little bit more because it's less dice, but the dice rolls could be higher. There's more variance. Okay. There was another house roll that I encountered at one point that was like, you roll 2d10 instead of 1d20, so you have less critical failures, and obviously less critical successes. Yeah, so how often can you do this? It's expending a slot, right? So Oh, no, you're only expending a slot if you augment it with the hawk sign. Which, the precision is just increasing damage or something? But hold on, what is... Or no, it's increasing chance to hit, right? And what? Yeah, that's DC increase. Okay, that makes sense. Flame ignores resistances and cannot be extinguished by any means short of a wish spell. Any creature that moves through the area or ends its turn in the area must also make a saving throw. At the beginning of your next turn, the flames extinguish, and your right eye becomes blinded until the end of your next long rest. Ooh, okay. Right. That's interesting. So you could... This is like this is a big toll on you. That makes a lot of sense. That's interesting. And then Eclipse of the Moon is a ghostly visage of the moon eclipses your left eye. As an action, target a creature within 60 feet of you that you can see. It must succeed on an intelligence saving throw. On a failed save, you trap the creature's mind within a terrible nightmare of your design. The creature becomes incapacitated until the beginning of your next turn and takes 8d10 psychic damage. The creature's incapacitation can't be cured by any means short of a wish spell. On a successful save, the creature only takes half as much damage and isn't incapacitated. This psychic damage ignores resistances. At the beginning of your next turn, the effect ends and your left eye becomes blinded until the next long rest. Okay. I would put forward, if you are unsuccessful in the Eclipse of the Moon, because like the Eclipse of the Sun, you create the fire. There's no question about it. But if you fail to pick a particular target with Eclipse of the Moon, it probably shouldn't blind you. I don't know how you feel about that, Kian. Maybe that's cheap and like too player supportive or whatever. That's just kind of how I feel about that. So... I mean, it's very powerful. I guess because it always takes the half damage on a failed save, it's still a very powerful ability. But maybe you don't get blinded, but you can't use it again if it's failed. Like, you retain your sight because the full power didn't leave you. But you can't do that again until your next long rest. Something like that, anyway. An endless starscape eclipses your eyes. As an action, target a creature within 60 feet. You place a magical command on that creature, forcing it to carry out your will. Okay, it must succeed on an intelligence saving throw, become charmed by you for 1 week. While the creature is charmed by you, it takes 5d10 psychic damage each time it acts in a manner directly counter to your instructions. No more than once each day. Oh, if the creature can't understand you, this ability has no effect. The effect ends when the creature meets a certain condition that you set when giving it the command, or when you end the effect as an action. Charm cannot be removed by any means short of a wish spell. Yeah, okay, both of your eyes become blinded. That makes sense. So, I think this is pretty cool. Definitely a lot of flavor. Don't know how we would work this exactly, but I can imagine somebody doing an Eclipse of the Stars move, and because they are blinded, like the first command or first order or whatever is escort me to my long resting place. Escort me to camp. Kind of funny. All right. So at level 4, you get the ASI, of course. Okay. So you expand, become proficient in further hand styles at this point too. I'm guessing that happens, yeah, at level 8 as well. Yeah, and I imagine it would be so draining of an exercise for the masters that they would probably not be very like they would reserve it only for those who have shown the most potential. Right? It's not like a free thing. That's pretty cool. So level 7 gives you evasion, which is, I believe, a common. It's like it's not a specific thing that's specific to this class. At 9th level, you've attained Peerless Mastery with a hand sign of your choice. One of the hand signs from the hand sign table, cost becomes 0. You increase its effectiveness by 1 tier. When you take the attack action, you can substitute one of your attacks to cast your signature technique. And then you just have the sort of list of stuff here, right? These sorts of reference sheets. I don't remember who Master Shifu was. I know the name, I don't remember it. Oh, yeah. I remember that guy. What, Jack Black's a furry? I feel like you could clip that. That'd be a good random moment. Okay, so I think, let's think about this. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Goober alert. It doesn't actually look like I can edit this. Let's see. Oh, I can clone to new. There we go. Alrighty. That's very neat. Okay. So we don't have a name for him yet, but we do have a name for ninjutsu, which is engram. If we look at what engram actually is, cognitive information imprinted in a physical substance, theorized to be the means by which memories are stored inside the brain or biological tissue. So I think that's what we're going to use instead of ninjutsu. Try to make it a bit more Western-centric, I suppose. Like, 3Crow can obviously play his character as anime as he wants to, because that's his flavor. But having that be something you opt into, as opposed to something that you must accept, no matter what, in order to participate. That'll open up more people to be interested in the homebrew, I think. And generally, we'll probably just, like, I think you can say it just fits better with D&D. I don't know if that's a controversial take or not. Seems fine. Okay, so got Immortal, we got Blood Knight, got some more work to be done on all of those classes, of course, still, but enough to get started for anybody. I got to start laying out the groundwork for level 4 for Blood Knight, because that's where Ro's going next, obviously, although that'll be some time. But exciting times ahead, nonetheless. Okay. So what kind of name are we going to go for this guy? He's got engram. I'm thinking, like, we could make it something to do with, I almost want to use empath or something, but obviously that makes it sound less martial. It's not a very martial term. Like, but there's something about the neurochemical stuff going on there that's pretty interesting. There was some, I feel like there were Mass Effect classes, but I can't remember. Oh, I think I was thinking of Adept. These are pretty generic names, huh? Blade Path. I kind of like the simplicity of empath, but I think there's a ways to go for that one. Wasn't there like a... No. Well, I don't think that, is that its ship? I don't think that there's, I'm not sure that anything about the class is... I feel like the core of the class is pretty anime, if you want to call it that, and I don't think that's offensive. Like, using hand signs all the time is, like, classic anime, right? Like, isn't that something that was... Everybody was talking about Naruto and stuff? But I don't think that's a problem. Like, I'm not arguing to change the flavor in that way, right? I'm just going after names. So, I think the core of the class is still pretty anime-inspired in that way. Obviously, I want you to be satisfied with it, since it's your homebrew that we're adapting in. I think stuff like, for example, the bloodlines being like, what was it called? Eyes of the Sun and Moon. That's like super... I guess that's also like Native American, actually. But I think that's like super Japanese mythological stuff, right? That was very evocative to me, and I think we'll keep that a lot. Janissaries were Islamic, right? I remember looking at them at some point. Yeah. Abducted from Christian families, converted to Islam, and trained as warriors. Holy shit. That's pretty fucking dark. But yeah. That's, yeah. If it weren't for, like, such a hyper-specific term for, a hyper-specific period of history, that would be a pretty banging word, right? Because how else would you put that into a fucking... There's a word for... let's see. I can go find it. There's a word for... It's a defector that returns to the battlefield or something like that. Maybe Ivacatus, is that what it was? Yeah, it wasn't a defector, I guess. It was an honorable discharge, and then they voluntarily enlisted again. Malefactor. Fuck yeah, brother. Yeah, Janissary is a little too close to Janny. I thought the same thing, 3. I'm not gonna lie. Divine quietness through uninterrupted prayer. That might be something to do later. And I forget what Hara's specs was. Ah. Divination by entrails of animal. Okay. Blackguard. Blackguard might not be bad. Although, it's funny because Blackguard used to be a bit more... Apparently it originated as a joke about fucking the lower menials who had the kitchen utensils. I guess Blackguard is kind of like, nowadays, I think people associate it with powerful things, right? Blackguard. Blackguard. Honestly, Blackguard isn't bad. I got all my kinds of names here. Look, Paragon's in here. 3Crow, use this document. Actuary, yeah. Iron Hand. We already use Iron Head. We can't have 2 Iron H words. Yeah, dude. I forget what Oracle was. Oh, the outer portion of an ear. Well, that's kind of funny. Use Iron Hand in Games Workshop. I don't even know what an Iron Hand is there. Warbreed. We could go Dead Hand or something. I guess that wouldn't be terrible. I don't know. I kind of want the word to just fucking jump out at me and be like, fuck yeah, that's the one. I guess, like, Maven is kind of a generic term for master. I don't know. Blackguard might be the front runner right now. What do you think, Three Crow? Is Blackguard good enough for you? It kind of it puts them at a lowly social status. I don't know if that's what you were envisioning for all Shinobi, all of this class. Doomfist. What was Coptic? What was that? I guess I didn't. It's just a word that is made from there, I guess. Blackguard. So it started off meaning like person of low character, and now it's kind of shifted to meaning like a dangerous, like an elite soldier who is not necessarily considered to be have the utmost moral standing. Janissary shouldn't have to suffer because of Reddit. It has to suffer because it refers to a highly specific period of time. And it's a highly specific region of time. I'll put it to you this way, Shambler. If Janissary was used as a word, like, in the modern day, to generically refer to any child soldier abducted from another tribe and raised or whatever, well, then it would just be a word that means that thing. And it would have originated from this one case, but it would have meant, and, you know, that would be fine. We would consider it then. I don't know that it would have been in line with what Three Crow's expectations were. Basically, people who are feared warriors, but society knows that they are employed for dubious purposes. So they're not respected like knights are, even if they do good. Yeah. We could also, like, if we wanted to take out the blackguard, and it would be, we could do, like, Black Hand, which is a bit more, it feels a bit more edgy than blackguard, even though, I don't know. Most people probably look at blackguard and think it's blackguard, because that's how you would pronounce it, and that's how you would write that word, but it's pronounced blackguard, which I never really understood. But that's Old English for you. But if we did something like more like Black Hand, we're at least bringing out the idea that it's not necessarily considered honorable by the average person. Maybe there's also the element of fear in the idea that they're feared for the magics that they have, right? If you know what if you understand what I'm meaning. It's blackguard is how you would spell it, but it's pronounced blackguard. And if you don't believe me, you can search it up and then try to listen to the pronunciation. Blackguard. So, you know, you see blackguards, or blackguards as they are, in here all the time, right? And they're pretty fearsome warriors now. Like, people have co-opted the term to mean something that's fearsome, terrifying, you know, whatever. But they are fit for a purpose, right? And they are of lowly stature. And people do not necessarily, they don't respect them. Fear is a type of respect, but it's not like the type that they want to cultivate. Even a good-oriented, good-aligned blackguard, in this case, would be under the impression that they have to really earn their trust of their fellow adventurers, of their fellow whoever, citygoers, neighbors, whatever you want to call that. Level 6 blackguard doesn't sound very epic. Well, if it was pronounced blackguard, it probably would sound pretty epic. Level 6 blackguard. But that's not how you pronounce it. I don't know what to tell you. I think blackguard is a fine term. It does feel medieval, which I think points to it as a word. Not like we're talking about fucking... What was Visigoth? I think that's just a hyper-specific... Yeah. There was also the Cimmerian. I remember looking that up a while ago. Perpetually dark or gloomy. Mentally dark or ignorant. So maybe level 6 Cimmerian sounds better to you, Shambler. But that's also a little bit more, it's not very specific or archetypal as a term, so I don't know that we would go for it. Watch out, it's Zazaj. My favorite class name. I think Black Hand is probably fine, since it keeps the seedy or unseemly aspect. But it also, you know, I could call it the Lotus Acid. What do you think? Does Black Hand sound good enough to you, Three Crow? I don't know. It doesn't really tie in with Engram thematically, but at least it was referencing to the hand. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I wanted. I wanted to see if I could find a word that would tie in with Engram as like memory. I was thinking about more like master of some kind. I guess you could do Maven Hand. Something like that. Or just Maven for short, but want to get the name right for sure. Could you really call it Shade Hand? I don't know. Okay. If we're also thinking that they were generally perceived of as weapons, I wonder if we could do something like, it's going to be a goofy thing to say, but Repo Man, something like that, more fantasy coded. Because the repossession, the recollection, the recall, memory, you can kind of make a tenuous link there. You want to make a Blood Knight that murders children? I'm confused. Oh. I get it. They kill them even after they take their children. Well, the thought process behind the Blood Knight was that it's only created when somebody survives a great cataclysmic moment in their, like, a massacre of some kind, passes that kind of genetic trauma off to their offspring, and then one of their offspring is the Blood Knight for some, yet to, like, personal reason, right? So you wouldn't really empower them with sin in that way. That's not really how it works. It would be more like, by doing that kind of butchery and massacre, you would create a Blood Knight in the future, and if it's really fucking powerful and strong, it can sometimes be created on the spot, as it was with Ro. But not that Ro even really knows that, I don't think. But Balathal knows. I'm not, like, sharing stuff out of school. I'm not telling you guys anything he doesn't know. I wonder if there was a term. Yeah, I mean, it's happened before. It's not like Ro is the first of his kind in that respect, but it doesn't usually happen that way. Like, maybe 1 out of every 10 or 20 Blood Knights is made in such a fashion. Blood Knights are pretty rare. Like, Ro doesn't know this, because he doesn't really know what a Blood Knight is. He doesn't have a formulated term for it. He hasn't gone to education. And they're kind of a newer-ish, within the last couple centuries, occurrence anyway. But Blood Knights are pretty rare. When it was made clear to him that the Azure Draconin was a Blood Knight, if he had known much about being a Blood Knight, he would be like, holy shit, we gotta identify that motherfucker. Because my kind are really fucking rare, and I'm not talking about gnolls. But he doesn't know that, right? So he wasn't able to do that. Like, the odds of 2 of them showing up, I guess, in a city as vast as Inalance, it might not be super crazy, but it's still pretty slim. So, still something that should have drawn attention. And I'm not saying it's a roleplay error. I'm saying that would only draw attention if Ro knew that. He doesn't know those details about himself, about his class, about what he is, about his self. Oh yeah, it's way more common for it to be generational, inherited, etc. Like, a usurer or usurer. Yeah, I thought about Praetorian as well. Is an option. Is an option. No, but I mean, even Protoss use Praetors, so Not in Cosmonarchy, though. That's one of the reasons why I disliked that choice. Gulam is definitely a powerful word, and knowing that that's what it means, phonetically, Gulam is really powerful. Everybody wants to talk about the fucking film, apparently. Gilman. The plural form. Well, who would want to do that for free? Lose my balls for free? I don't think so, buddy. I don't want to lose them at all, but I'm certainly not losing them for free, motherfucker. As much as it would be kind of funny to have a class named you, I think I'm gonna go with Gulam. You like Gulam, 3Crow? Gulam is like it feels like a powerful phonetic word, but very guttural. Makes me feel like it's not necessarily it's not like Sultan or something that's a little bit more pleasant to say. So it makes me feel like they're maybe cast down upon, looked down upon, etc. I think we can go with Gulam. If you're down with Gulam, I'm down with Gulam. What do you say, brother? The Agog. The Agogi. Agoj. Blackguard! I'm gonna make a Blackguard class just to fuck with you, Shambler. It's gonna be epic. It'll be like Vicious Mockery by default, you know, it'd be great. Oh no, it involved pederasty. Fuck. Sometimes I decide to choose to believe that didn't happen. But, I guess that's like pedophile erasure or something. He is a phlegm attack. Ahmed, is that you? Spitting chicken at us? Oh, of course. There's them in any society, right? Whether it was, like, institutionalized is another story, I imagine. Man. That would kind of suck. It coming across as a lady doth protest too much thing. Gulam works. I think Gulam works, man. I think that's a good word for it. I'm not really sure how to pronounce Agogi or Agoj or Agogi. So I don't think Gulam is very archetypal, because most people don't know what it is. But if they go and find out what it is, then it's probably the best word we have for this era of thing, where it's like a word to mean a slave soldier, right? A goge. Okay. I think Gulag... Or, sorry, Gulam. Gulag. Fucking Russians. Get it leaking through. Narath! Get out of my Gulag! Gulam is a more powerful word for not the same thing, obviously, but I actually think agoge is probably like a more epic thing. But Gulam is, I think Gulam is pretty good. I think what's funny is we could have like agoge training here. It would be kind of a weird mix of societies and origins. But maybe Gauntlet. So what do you think, Three Crow, about the idea that I had to move Engram to level 1? I know you said something about you would have you'd get less slots or something like that, right? Or you'd get less options. I don't know if we can make this 3+ dex and still have it function. You'll have to tell me that based on the way that it works. Now, the only thing is, we do need to figure out what we're going to call the subclass. I think it's still fine for it to be a bloodline. Like, maybe your people were selected for their bloodline, in fact, and that's how they were courted, right? Cost scaling is level plus prof plus dex. Simple technique has a minimum of cost of 6. You need a minimum of 16 to be the class. So if it's 1 plus dex mod plus proficiency bonus, and 1 plus 2 is 3. So yeah, you would need a plus 3. A minimum of 16 dex, okay. Well, that would be true even if the... So we should leave it at 4 plus dex then, or what do you think? I don't know if it matters much if we increase every other level by 1 for the max cost. You'd have to tell me that. One action is 1 cost, melee is 1 cost, melee spell attack is 1 cost, then elements are typically 3. Oh, okay, yeah. You wouldn't really do a... You couldn't really do it without the element, right? Okay, got it. Okay, so far what I've got for their little description here... Oh, let me, sort of pattern match. Okay, I think I got everything there transferred over. We'll have to collab on starting items, I think. I think Gulams would probably have some kind of... I don't think they would carry around the reference sheets or anything like that for training materials. I think their training would have basically instilled it into their brains. That's why we're calling them engrams, right? It's like they've been seared into their minds. Which I'll write a little bit about as far as lore is concerned here. Yeah, all good. I'm thinking, like... What do we say about, like, a long sword or a short sword and a long bow? So you have to kind of choose. I don't know, maybe it's always better to take short sword and long bow in this situation. Maybe it would be like a long sword and something else. I'll leave that for now. We'll come back to it later. But if anybody has ideas on that, feel free. I feel like we're missing some kind of flavor here to tie it all together, insofar as it's just accepted you have been a conquered people by their conquerors or employers, maybe, or masters. We'll leave it simple like that. Okay. Excuse me. Yeah, training making them break mental barriers or like awaken their genetics or something is pretty. I think that's pretty good. It kind of seems like that's what Three Crow intended anyway with the original. The idea that like you're ascending in power, your bloodline is feeding off of that. You're awakening. That's like the whole point of like selecting your bloodline. It doesn't really at all make sense to me that bardic colleges exist and you're like going like I don't know. Maybe I just don't understand the presence of mind there. What is a bardic college? Did you go to college in between level 2 and level 3? How does that work? But it might just be some fanciful term. I do like the idea of the bloodline like revealing itself to you, that your history was so clouded with uncertainty and you never really saw much of your own people that you basically are only now tapping into your own history, your own ancestry, and figuring out what exactly that is. And that's where it's like a choice for the player. So, power is attained as a stress response that has been honed through genetic selection. I don't think they would specifically be breeding them to assassinate a dragon egg that they don't know exists, but I will just point out Narath couldn't sense the dragon egg because he was being dominated by the Lich, right? So his senses were dulled. Darix could. That hasn't come up yet in conversation. I think he kind of said it in the confession. Like, as soon as he arrived, he felt it, and he also experienced such trauma and stuff from dealing with all the fucking people there. But, yeah, other Draconin have, like, also sensed it. It's not just Darix, so... You know, this might be a reason why there was a Azure Draconin after you guys. I'm just saying. It might not be the last Draconin you see. I'm just... Okay. Let's finish writing the flavor here. Yeah, that also adds a little bit of value there, I think. So hopefully the extra little flavor here ends up being useful in that respect. Mostly I'm trying to provide a little bit of value in I'm trying to provide a little bit of value in the idea of, like, how you might design a character to fit the Gulam class, like what kinds of things would naturally emerge about your backstory. Like, this is the class thing. This is the quintessential Fates Vagrant class in some ways. Fates Vagrant is a pretty good class, though, to be fair. That's or not class, background. That's the background that I came up with for Fizz. In the Paladin partner. That's another thing I gotta translate over here, custom background. I haven't done the race translation yet. So let me just read this out. Looks like I was going for... We'll do that instead, okay. Gulams are fearsome warriors, trained from birth to blend martial prowess, cunning tactics, and their mystical bloodline to achieve their objectives. Bearing frightening capabilities, forged in them by their conquerors or masters, the supernatural abilities of the Gulams make them formidable operatives in combatant and stealth missions alike. I gotta change the grammar here a little bit. Also, I used abilities twice, basically, right? I think I said capabilities, and then supernatural abilities. Supernatural powers of the Gulams make them formidable operatives in combat and stealth missions alike. After such relentless and dispassionate training, Gulams never forget their birthright. Mystical techniques brought forth through hand signs, seared into their memory. These engrams represent the true power of the Gulam, and are how they augment their ruthless martial prowess with mystical power that few are truly aware of. As a result of their origins as a slave class of warrior, and because of the fear inspired by their ill-understood abilities, Gulams are often looked down upon by those in polite society, and rarely have much wealth or influence at the onset of their journey. This leads many down the path of the ne'er-do-well, while others seek to carve out their own path to redemption as best they can. I will say... We'll say road instead of path here in the first one, because path repeating there is not good. Alright, I think that's fine. Probably fine if they seared in memory instead of their memory. So that's basically what I got for flavor. It's probably the most flavor I've written for a class description, but that's fine. And then now down in here, for gauntlet training, we got to keep finding and replacing for shinobi stuff, right? It's helping. I think we might need to add so long as you have a free hand or something. Because if you're using both hands on a longsword, for example, you probably shouldn't be able to do that. That also increases its damage, though, I think, right? For exploit weak. For using a longsword with 2 hands. I think it's like a 1d10 instead of 1d8. Not much of a damage increase, but you know. Yeah, yeah. That's what I thought. Okay, so I don't think we need to change. I think we already established we don't really need to change anything about the gauntlet training. It is a lot of martial related stuff. I think it's fine. I think this class will have a lot of movement options, which is pretty interesting. But the engrams, they only have a few of them, right? I think I'd have to scroll up in the chat here, but it said, I think at some point you said... At level 1, you only get wolf, monkey, frog, and then everything else opens up. That's what I read in the chat earlier. Way earlier, of course. Well, I was thinking specialization would be a level 2 feature. So is there a way to make the system work with that in mind? Or would you need to be specializing... Okay, the elements are open. Would you need to be specializing in them in order to use them at all? Okay. So at first you're basically limited to touching, to doing touch stuff, right? And then it would open up at level 2. I think that's fine, though. That's like a nice tutorial, almost. I don't remember... I did not see it in the original description, but here it says the energies you draw upon to execute engrams recharge when you complete a short or long rest. Let's see. You may use a number of engrams equal to twice your proficiency bonus. Okay. So your engram slots are actually like spell slots, but you know the entire spell list. That's like kind of the comparison. Okay. Oh no, I need a new page for this, apparently. That's a clever way to do the, that. I guess it doesn't just work if you do this. Oh, it does. I don't know if there was a deliberate choice in making it, have a gap at the bottom. Umami. This is Prometheus Studio. Dark Orthodox Chant 2. Something in Russian. Churchscape Meditation by Eschaton. Oh, that's going to be to my watch later list, I think. So. Based on. Got him. Okay. All right, so in terms of... Oh, we have a problem, homies. There we go. I fixed it. Okay, that's... So we're up to the point where we got to start doing the subclass stuff. Obviously, I'd like the formatting to be a little bit better if possible. I don't think I can fit gauntlet training up there. Although I think maybe what I can do is I can do... I can do that, right? And this can be... This can be a wide description. I feel like that kind of looks nice. Obviously, it's a lot more text fits there, so I guess we should probably do like something that's a little bit more split up to make it easier to read. And then I guess this leaves us more room for art or whatever later on. All right, I think that looks nice. I noticed, Shambler. So, tell you what, Three Crow, I am feeling a lot more like I do feel like I properly understand the class. The spellcasting is very different, very unique. Definitely going to be a lot to adjust to. I will, at some point, probably make an NPC Ghulam just to practice it out, right? For the subclasses, I will translate that over on another stream or in downtime between streams, and we'll basically get it so that it's fully working, fully operable, adapting some of the stuff that's in those later levels into the levels 1 through 6 as well, just to make sure we have something there. Or I guess we could leave it there and then have it be like stuff we pluck out for specific results. And yeah, Shambler, I think the subclasses are all going to be specific body parts. Or maybe it'll be sensory things, but I don't know that I can really do something with taste or whatever, right? So yeah, I think it'll have to be body parts. Yeah, I think so. I've put a lot of time. Obviously, you might you may have noticed, as somebody who mods a lot, I often think about and sometimes agonize over things that are like, are they quite as good as what is de facto already adapted or in the most of people's minds? And at some point, you just got to be like, man, let's just do it. Let's just do it. And so. Yeah, I think we like the technical stuff pretty well. You know, we like a lot of other people in D&D communities would call it crunchy, I think is the term for it, where it's like the rules govern a lot and you got to remember them all, and sometimes it can get a lot. But we like that kind of stuff. We're gamers, dude. we're used to pretty complex game. So I think that's like one example of pretty solid, like we are the audience for this kind of thing, right? And so I think it's fine to have more involved homebrew stuff, generally speaking. But as a result of that, you know, I do think about like, what are we going to do with, you know, if we ever wanted to have like somebody learn this class, yeah, that would be a concern, but it'll be all right. Like, that's just a different spellcasting system you've got to go in. I think in the future, there's going to be there's a strong chance that we take all of the mystic classes or classes with a form of mystical spellcasting or whatever, and we make their spellcasting very different. I don't know if all of them will be like this, because this is a lot to remember, and I have the advantage of having the player who wants to play the class also being the one who designed the class in part, and so that helps me out because I don't have to worry about like, shit, man. I don't properly understand it yet or whatever. I need to see it in action. So that definitely helps out, I think. Yeah, I did look at that briefly enough, but enough to know that there's like a lot of examples there that I can definitely look at. So yeah, I feel like that'll be a fine push in the right direction, so to speak, for people who are learning it. You did say in one of the original parts of this, like you wrote that what components it takes. So you can just look at the type here in the top this part, and you can from there you can pretty easily determine. Oh yeah, it needs this, right? So I think that's fine. You can make pretty simple combos, I think, just by taking stuff that you know is going to be like one of each type and going from there. So I think that's fine, right? I don't think I deleted any oh, I see right here. Oh, I think you left this like that intentionally for element, though. I assume you did it intentionally because it's like that in both tables. Like, this is what it would look like if you had it differently. Yeah, this is like the data entry, right? Whereas I think it kind of it looks fine either way. This is maybe a little bit easier to read when it's left adjusted. So it's probably better to have it like that because it's right next to like the type or whatever, but anyway. Yeah, as far as like changing the subclass, that subclass seemed pretty good. I think it's probably fine as is. I might think about a couple of other things to do. To like add on to it yet. I'm not 100% sure. But this class has a lot of versatility with the engrams, so I think that's already pretty good. It almost like you want the subclasses to augment that as opposed to necessarily add a bunch of their own replacement stuff. In general, I am not a super fan of things that are I'm not a super fan of things that are like what do you call it? The the system where it's like the subclass defines the class. I think the subclass should be significant, but it should morph what's already there. And I think the reason why D&D subclasses typically define the class is because there's not much there for the class before you get to the subclass, which is why everybody wants to start at level 3. So, yeah, just something else to think about, I suppose. Shambler, I deleted your message because it's a spoiler in the Gauntlet stage sign-up thing. But yeah. Oh shit, it's Ryzel. Ryzel might join the tournament. I don't know who Ryzel is. I'm gonna act like I do. Alrighty. Yeah, I think I'm certainly looking forward to seeing this stuff in action whenever we get around to doing that. Yeah, so next time I work on this, it'll be transporting over the subclasses or the subclass section or what have you, and then maybe coming up with a couple of ideas for the other subclasses, even if I don't immediately come up with all of the information for them. And, you know, the other level progression stuff, right? Like past level 3, going further out. I do think this is a pretty cool looking class. I'm interested in seeing how it goes. And shout out to 3Crow for showing me some new formatting tricks as well, which is very cool. I think I'll do like a little short list here. Yeah, I will be working on that at some point. I don't know if it'll be this week, but I will try to find time for it. Probably just depends on how the Shinobi, now Gulam stuff is transported over for the subclass. Like, if I can get that nice and easy, then we'll be able to move down to Gagrami and some other stuff. All right, we got a little cute blurb about all the new classes. I think that's cool. And, okay. I think that'll be where we stop the stream for now. Went for about almost 3 hours, not quite. 2 hours 30 has been passed. If you like this content and you're not already donating, donate on the Ko-fi page if you want to see more of it. And this is all available publicly as well. So I guess I'll have to start linking it in the description of the videos. Thanks, Kian, for your donation on the Ko-fi, which got you this class translation into Isindasor. We'll be doing more work on it later on, and I look forward to seeing it in action at some point. Thanks to Kian and the Shambler for hanging out in the chat today. We also saw Lucy and Alexander at various points. Shout out to them. I'm out of here for now. Lads, it's been great. It's been grand. I will see you soon. Peace.